Hey, what's up, and welcome to another episode of Q&A, the show where I take your questions from YouTube, Twitter, and answer them here in video format. Like to just jump into some questions. We're going to jump in right away. First question is from Dog Pound Nation, who says, if the Browns cannot re-sign Clowney this offseason, what do you think the plan should be for the other defensive end spot? Go for a guy early in the draft or go for another free agent? Harold Landry is a name that's been floated around as a possible Brown signing. Browns got options, right? If it would be best if Clowney came back, but depending on a number of factors, I'm not sure if that happens, right? It depends on the money that Clowney wants. It also depends on, this front office, right? Are they looking at 2022 similarly to 2021, where they went into that season looking at it as a win now year? Or are they looking at 2022 as a reconnaissance year? We're going to find out about some guys, see where we go, but we're not going to go all in with like the veterans and everything, right? Like that's gonna matter, how they view this season from the front office, right? With the questions around quarterback, it would make sense that they would view it less go all in than they did last offseason. So that could be something that keeps them from re-signing Clowney, right? But if they can't keep Clowney, the other defensive end spot, probably just a draft pick. Look, I don't think it's going to be like the 13th pick or anything like that. Second, third round, there's some draft picks available that I feel like can be some decent edge prospects on the team. And I think that's probably the direction that they're going to go in. The next question comes from Jeff A., who says, who says, J.C. Tretter has been listed as a probable cap saver for the Browns at $9 million. If we let him go, do we have confidence in Nick Harris, or would you try other alternatives? I would much rather have J.C. Tretter. Nick Harris has been okay when he's been in there at center, but J.C. Tretter is a pretty sure thing there. Again, man, this has a lot of questions on how does the front office view this season. Is this a season where we're just trying to find out about guys and just see how far the team can go? Or is this a season where they're trying to win it all or win now, right? And again, this comes back to the uncertainty around the quarterback position. Unfortunately, it's uncertain. We don't feel confident about what kind of quarterback play the Browns are going to get this year. And when you're not confident in the kind of quarterback play that the Browns get, you're not really going to be the most aggressive in free agency. And that's kind of what the Browns situation is right now. Now, J.C. Tretter being a possible cap saver, I'm wondering, what are we saving cap space for? Like, what in the world are we saving cap space for? We still got cap. We're not in cap trouble. What are we saving the cap space for, right? Like, if you're going to say that we need to cut somebody to save cap space, all right, why are we saving that cap space? Because we've signed all the free agents that we're going to sign, right? Like, I don't know who we think we're going to sign right now, but, it's like, what is that cap space going to be used for? Are we just doing it to save $9 million that's not going to make up another player? Like, what is going to be better than having J.C. Tretter? I don't think that that's out there. So I just don't get it. Look, sometimes, man, when we get to like free agency, we start to obsess over cap space. We start to obsess over the number, and we forget about the function of that number, right? We just go cap space, cap space. We need more cap space. Well, what are you using the cap space for? Because if you keep cutting all your good players because you're trying to save cap space, but then your team stinks, what did you accomplish? What did you accomplish with that cap space? So I just don't think it makes sense for them to save cap right now. They aren't going to sign Baker Mayfield to a long-term deal unless he wins the Super Bowl next year, right? Like, that's just not happening. Baker Mayfield this year is playing for the hope to be franchise tagged after this year. That's really what he's playing for. That's like the most likely outcome. If he plays well, he'll get franchise tag, and we'll see if he can put two together. If he can't put two together again, he's done, right? Like, that's going to be the thing, right? If he is the quarterback in September, which, we'll find out. But that's that situation, right? So maybe in a world where you thought you were going to have to free up some cap space to make sure you can sign Baker Mayfield to a long-term contract, okay. Or if it's a world where you trade for a Russell Wilson or you trade for Aaron Rodgers or something like that and you need to make up the cap space, okay, yeah, we need to make up that cap space. But if we're just running back Baker Mayfield, what in the world are we saving all this cap space for? We ain't using it. You know what I mean? We got enough to re-sign Denzel Ward if we want to right now. Like, we ain't using none of that cap space. So I don't know what the obsession has been during the offseason about cap space this year when, you know, in reality, like, what the Browns need cap space for? What are we doing with it? Who are we signing? You know, like, there's so much with the direction of this team that I just don't understand right now. The next question comes from Brownie Point, who says, why did the run game feel so inconsistent in 2021? It felt like they had good numbers in games, but they couldn't do anything with our O-line and running backs. We shouldn't have that issue, it seems like. Yeah, the Browns had a lot of games where, like, hey, either the run game got like a huge run early in the game or something like that, and that really carried it, or they got a big run late in the game. But they really didn't get those consistent gashes, right? We weren't really gashing teams like we gashed teams last year. And I think that's why they felt inconsistent. In 2020, we gashed teams almost at will. Like whenever we wanted to, we just gashed them for 5-10 yards each run. Let's get it right here. I can only count to 2 games where it felt like the Browns were gashing guys consistently. It was the 2 games where Case Keenum started for the Browns with Dearness Johnson, right? Like where I felt like, hey, we're just gashing guys. You know, we got it. Other games, I just didn't feel like that. And, you know, however you get the yardage when it comes to the cumulative total, it doesn't tell the whole story. But, yeah, that's definitely one of them where we didn't gash and dominate on a consistent basis. We dominated in some spots that produced some long runs, but it wasn't as useful for this offense as what happened last year where we were just gashing teams back and back and back whenever we wanted to. Didn't have that this year. Why was it inconsistent? Probably because of the tackles. The tackles were inconsistent. And I'm talking about the tackle play because Jedrick went out. You know, all the linemen went out for pretty much the whole year. Jedrick came back late in the year. And even then, Jedrick's not like the greatest run blocker in the world. So a lot of things led into it, but I think it was mainly injuries. And also the passing game was just so insufficient this year that teams really did not care about being burnt by the pass because it was almost impossible for them to get burnt by the pass as bad as the passing was this year. So they kind of just put everybody in the box, right? It's a lot easier to defend a run when you ain't worried about what the quarterback's going to do. The next question comes from Landon. Landon says, AQ, there have been rumors of a potential Mike Williams signing. How would I feel about that? Man, I'm not excited, but I'm not going to be angry about it. You know what I mean? Like, do I think that's the move that's going to fix the Browns? Absolutely not. I just don't think I've never been that big on Mike Williams. I think he's a guy that you can have as a second option that would be a really good end zone guy. Like he's a elite version of what people thought Alden Tate would be in Cincinnati, but he is not really a guy that you could just throw it up to at any point, right? Like he's not a dominant wide receiver. He's good in specific spots, but he's never been dominant and he's never been healthy. And again, when it comes to wide receiver, health is important. The next question comes from Big Matt, who says, do you see DPJ or Anthony Schwartz being the possible answer, or should we bring in more wide receiver competition? Yeah, we probably should bring in some more wide receiver competition. I think DPJ is a 2. I thought he could be a 1. I think he's a firm 2. I think he got overexposed with too many targets last year, and he's a 2. Yeah, I think he's a 2. Has drop issues still. He's a 2. Anthony Schwartz is a gadget guy. I don't think there's much else to that. I think he's just a gadget guy. I don't know if their hopes are he's going to develop into like a number 1 wide receiver. I don't see that for him. I think he's a gadget guy. I worry about that being his designation, to be honest with you, because he's not a ferocious enough runner and he's not He doesn't like contact enough to be a gadget guy, right? Like he's not Debo Samuel at all. So I worry about that. All he has really going for himself is speed. So hopefully he can add something to that offseason, make me look like an idiot, because I would love for Anthony Schwartz to be a great wide receiver, but I don't see it right now. So yeah, I would draft 2-3 wide receivers. I would double dip in the second, third round. You know, I'm not as heart set at 13 on anybody, to be honest with you, right? I'm more best player available. So like, I'm not going to be dead set at wide receiver. In my opinion, I don't think they should be dead set at wide receiver at 13, but I think you can get in the second, third, even fourth round. You can get some solid guys. The next question comes from Eddie, who says, was the lack of wide receiver production a result of Baker missing guys, wide receivers not talented enough, or is Stefanski's offense being more run heavy? Little bit of Stefanski's offense being more run heavy and being more tight end or oriented. Little bit of Stefanski not being aware of his personnel. And what I mean by that is, you know, I think he treated Baker Mayfield at the end of this year as if Baker was like playing good and gave him a lot of leeway at the end of the season. And that really sucked. That really bit us in the butt because he was not playing well and had not played well up to that point. And that led to the game plans not being distinct enough, right? And what I mean by that is like sometimes you just need to say, hey, we're going to get David Njoku the ball. I'm going to scheme up a bunch of targets for David Njoku where the read is David Njoku, right? It's not up to you. That's the read, David Njoku. Just do what I say, right? They didn't do that enough. So, yeah, Stefanski has that part. And Baker takes the bulk of the blame on that, right? Like, I mean, wide receiver production is one of those things that tend to scale with how well your quarterback plays. That's the truth of it, right? If your quarterback stinks, you're probably not going to get much out of your wide receivers. But if your quarterback is good, you're going to get a lot out of your wide receivers, right? That's one of those things that scale up and down with quarterback play. Baker played bad this year. Wide receivers look bad. You know, it almost makes it hard for me to evaluate the wide receivers given how bad the quarterback play was in some spots this year. Because, I mean, the quarterback play was so bad this year and it left an impression that the wide receiver play was bad to the point to where people legitimately felt like, and I've never felt this. I always said in the film sessions, no, Odell looks good. He looks like he still can run routes and everything. He looks like he's not washed. But people thought Odell was washed, even people who weren't watching the Browns or had invested in the Browns, just because he wasn't getting production. And that scales with quarterback play. It really does. So wide receiver production, I'm not saying it's all on the quarterback play, but a lot of it is. A lot of it is. Next question comes from Aiden, who says, love the videos. Do you think the Browns realistically winning the Super Bowl within 5 to 10 years? If they can stabilize quarterback play, yeah, it's realistic. If they can just get quarterback play stabilized. However they do that, I have on record, I don't care. But if the quarterback play gets stabilized and we're not sitting here every single offseason, I want to stress this. Every offseason for the last 4 years, we have been trying to figure out which Baker Mayfield we're going to get. Every offseason that he's been on the team, we've had to figure it out. Which one are we getting? Okay? So when you're in that situation, yeah, it's tough. But if it stabilizes, whether that be Baker Mayfield maturing and stabilizing as a player, we'll see. Or if it's somebody else coming in, 5, 10 years, probably win the Super Bowl, right? If that stabilizes itself, because, you know, I firmly believe this is a team that's a quarterback away, a good quarterback away from winning a Super Bowl. I don't think that's far-fetched, but they got to get the quarterback play better. Next question comes from Dr. Drabs, who says, should the Browns focus on free agents more or the draft? They should focus on the draft, because focusing on free agents means that you're going to win right now. In order to win right now, you have to have confidence in what kind of play you're going to get from the quarterback position. Right now, there is no confidence in that, right? Like, you might have a belief that he's going to play better. or whoever comes in is going to be better or whatever. But you don't have confidence in that, right? Now, if you do get confidence, free agency is more important, right? Because that's the now. That's what you're going for. But until we have confidence at the quarterback position with the quarterback play, until we are confident, until there's no Baker wars or a debate going on about like whether this dude should start or not, like you probably should focus on the draft, because that tells me that, you know, it's going to be a long proposition to have a team that's going to be Super Bowl worthy if you're not confident at your quarterback position. That doesn't mean you got to have the best quarterback in the world, but it does mean that you have to have one that you are confident in, and you feel like you can rely on to give you consistent output. And that's just not where we're at. Like, even if you like Baker Mayfield, you can't sit here and tell me with a straight face that you are confident that he's going to put out a consistent output. That's just ridiculous. He's never been consistent throughout his entire career. So, you know, that's what I worry about when it comes to focusing on free agents. So I'm probably leaning towards focusing on the draft. I think that's where they are too. All right, but that's it for this week's Q&A. I want to thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.